Have you ever felt like your world is crumbling around you? That everything you once knew and trusted is just gone? One minute, life is good, and the next, you're hit by a storm so fierce you can barely stand. It's in those moments of chaos and despair that we often ask, where can I find peace? It's a question that echoes through human history, and believe it or not, the Bible is filled with stories of people who faced the exact same thing. These aren't just ancient tales, they are raw human experiences of individuals whose lives fell apart spectacularly. And yet, in the middle of their wreckage, they found a peace that didn't make sense. Today, we are going to dive into their stories and uncover the secrets to finding unshakable peace when everything goes wrong. Let's start with a man whose name is almost synonymous with suffering: Job. Imagine having everything: a wonderful family, immense wealth, perfect health, and a great reputation. Job had it all. Then, in a single day, it was all snatched away. He lost his children, his fortune, and his health. He was left sitting in ashes, covered in painful sores, with friends who accused him instead of comforting him. His life didn't just fall apart, it was systematically dismantled. Can you imagine the overwhelming grief, the confusion, the sheer agony? So, how did Job find peace? It wasn't instant. He wrestled. He questioned God. He cried out in pain. He was brutally honest about his suffering. But here's the key: even in his darkest moments, Job never completely turned his back on God. He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." His peace didn't come from getting answers to why me. It came from a profound encounter with God himself. At the end of the book, God speaks to Job not to explain the suffering, but to reveal his own power, wisdom, and majesty. In that moment of seeing how big God was, Job's problems, as massive as they were, found their proper perspective. Job's peace wasn't found in understanding his circumstances, but in knowing the character of the one who was in control of them. It was a peace rooted in surrender and awe, not in answers. Now let's look at Joseph. His story reads like a Hollywood thriller. He was his father's favorite son, given a beautiful, colorful coat. But his own brothers, consumed by jealousy, threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. He was taken to Egypt, a foreign land, with nothing. Just when things started to look up, serving faithfully in Potiphar's house, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. Talk about a life falling apart. From a beloved son to a slave, then a prisoner. Every step seemed to be a step down, further into darkness and injustice. Where did Joseph find peace in that prison cell? The Bible tells us that the Lord was with Joseph. That's the secret. His peace wasn't based on his external situation, which was terrible, but on his internal connection with God. Joseph didn't become bitter or vengeful. Instead, he continued to live with integrity and trust in God's presence. He used his gifts even in prison, interpreting dreams and serving others. This unwavering faith eventually led to his incredible promotion to second in command of all of Egypt. Years later, when he faced his brothers, he wasn't filled with hate. He said to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Joseph found peace by reframing his entire story. He saw God as sovereign hand, weaving a beautiful purpose even through the most painful and unjust events of his life. His peace came from trusting God's ultimate plan, even when he couldn't see the next step. Let's move to the New Testament and talk about the Apostle Paul. Before he was Paul, he was Saul, a man who thought he had it all figured out. He was a respected religious leader, zealous for his traditions. His life was on a clear trajectory. Then, on the road to Damascus, he had a blinding encounter with Jesus. His whole world, his identity, his belief system, it all came crashing down. He had to completely redefine who he was and what his purpose was. And his life after that encounter. It was anything but easy. Paul was shipwrecked, beaten, stoned, imprisoned, and constantly facing opposition. His life was in a perpetual state of falling apart. Yet, this is the same man who wrote from a prison cell, "Rejoice in the Lord always." I will say it again, rejoice. How is that possible? Paul's peace came from a radical shift in his source of joy and identity. He wrote, "For to me, To live is Christ and to die is gain. His security was no longer in his circumstances, his reputation, or his comfort. It was entirely in his relationship with Jesus. He learned to be content whether he had plenty or was in need. His peace was supernatural because it wasn't tied to the stability of his world, but to the unshakable reality of Christ in him. It was a peace that came from finding his true, eternal home, which made the temporary troubles of this world seem light and momentary. So, what can we learn from Job, Joseph, and Paul? Their stories reveal a powerful pattern. First, they were honest about their pain. They didn't pretend everything was fine. They wrestled, they cried out, they processed their grief. Second, they kept their focus on God, not their circumstances. Job looked to God's majesty, Joseph trusted God's presence, and Paul fixed his eyes on Christ's sufficiency. Their peace wasn't the absence of trouble, but the presence of God in the midst of it. Third, they found purpose in their pain. They came to see that God could use their worst moments for a greater good, whether for their own growth or for the salvation of others. This kind of peace is available to us, too. When your world is falling apart, it's tempting to search for answers, to try and regain control, or to numb the pain. But these stories invite us to do something different. To cry out to God honestly. To lean into His presence and trust that He is with you, even when you can't feel Him. To look for His purpose, believing that He can bring good out of the rubble of your life. Peace isn't found in fixing our broken circumstances. It's found in clinging to the one who isn't broken, the one who holds all things together, even when our lives are falling apart. The promise isn't a life without storms, but a peace that can withstand any storm. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that explores faith in real life. Remember, no matter what you're facing, you are not alone. There is hope and there is peace to be found. See you in the next video.